me just do all right, so we're gonna check out this. I need to look up here real quick.
Did you bring your Oculus Go today?
I didn't, but we'll, after we finish fixing this problem, we can talk about it for a few minutes. Totally worth it. It's Heroku git clone. All right, so we have her project here. And let me go ahead, I'm going to open up the file inside of here. So we're going to open, and I have it in my home directory. Nope, not there. Where's my home? I can't get to my home directly. I have to go through the hard drive first. How do I get to my home directory? Do I seriously not know how to use a computer? Don't you usually have your home directory over here?
You may have to add it to your favorites. If you go under Finder.
Yeah, I can't believe it wouldn't already be there.
Well, I would think it would be minus, but in under sidebar. And then just.
Yeah, here's that.
Yeah,
Also, your hard drive. My hard disk should have been there too.
Yeah, it should have been.
Where I could have just clicked on that to get to it. All right, whatever. All right, so she's using a tool called Heroku to host her application. And what her application does is it allows you to send a text message to Heroku. Heroku then talks to a third-party API called Twilio. Twilio then responds back. Well, actually, she sends a text message to Twilio. Twilio sends it to Heroku. Heroku processes whatever she sent, then sends it back to Twilio. Twilio sends it back to you. Okay, that's the process that's supposed to happen here. So we're going to go into index.js here. So the thing that's getting called here with her Twilio is this guy right here. When she sends a text, it goes to Twilio. Twilio is then calling this Node.js endpoint, just the slash endpoint. And ultimately, we're trying to call this TWIML messaging response thing to send a text back to whoever sent this. All right, now this is for tracking where Zoe is on campus. All right, so don't worry about this stuff up here, but here it's connecting to Firebase, right? So we're creating a Firebase reference, blah, blah, blah. We're getting a value once. We want the last location where Zoe was seen. This is all working. We're printing out the last location. We're adding it to this variable called body. We are printing out body down here, so that's all working too. Then we're sending it at this thing called @. You know, we're building up a string here effectively. Later on here, we print out the full information of where Zoe was last seen just to the console, proving we're getting it. And then lastly, we are trying, so let me move it from here to here. We are trying to send a message to Twilio. Ideally, what we want to send is we want to send that body thing that we just built up. All right? So this is the message being sent back to Twilio, but it's from within a closure. Because remember, this is an asynchronous call. When we make this database reference and we make this single call, we're calling this function when it finally comes back. And so that might be 2 seconds later, something like that. However long it takes to hit the database, make a request, come back down. All right? So if I put this Twiml message dealy thing down here outside of that closure, the closure doesn't block. It comes here, it sends the text just fine. No problem. Twilio sends the message back to her. But I need it to send the message inside of this closure here because I won't have the body that I want to send back until then. That make sense? I won't have the response from the database of where Zoe was last seen. So I want to send this message back. So if I go ahead and I save this, so I made a little change there. And then we do a get add dot. Oh, I need to move into that. What's the name of the directory? It's called Cryptic. All right, it shows that we changed this one file, this index.js. I'll do a get commit dash blah. All right, and then I need to do what? Get Heroku. No, get push Heroku master. Okay, so in this case, Heroku is replacing our GitHub. It acts as a repository for our Git repository, but it also runs it for us as a server. All right, so I'll push these changes back to Heroku. And while it's doing this, so this is not going to work. We're trying to send that Twilio message inside of that closure, and it doesn't work. Even if I just say blah, forget about the body that we're building up. If I just say hello, or I say blah, or I say LOL, Twilio won't send a message inside that closure. If I move Twilio outside of the closure, where I don't have the message I need to send, but I try to say hello or whatever, Twilio sends just fine. There's some issue with calling that third-party API from within the closure. Go ahead.
Does it wait for? Does it have a function after the synchronous call, or just?
It's not. It's an asynchronous call.
Asynchronous after it finished, does it have any function that okay, I'm done with that function?
Yeah. Oh, I get what you're saying. Does it? So at the end of this one, does it have a function that says I'm done? That another function get called?
Yeah, I just could call.
I tried to call a different function. I don't think we. I mean, that's just at this point. This is just a normal plain Jane function when it finally gets called. So at the last line of this guy, it's done.
Go up a little bit.
I mean, this is just a function.
Up when you start the actual call, like the whole new messaging response.
That's this guy right here.
Twilio.
This guy here?
Yeah.
That's my variable. That's just a variable that allows me, that's like creating a new instance of Twilio. So this is how I send the message with it. So I don't think it's this, and I've tried moving that variable inside of here. So let me just show you what happens here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to look at Heroku Logs. This will look at the server here. It should show us that the thing started up just fine. Server started, state change from starting to up, blah, blah, blah. Go ahead and try to send a text. So she's going to send a text, which is going to call this endpoint right here. So her text goes to Twilio. Twilio is configured to call this slash endpoint. It's going to come in here. It's going to do all of this stuff here. So she's specifically sending a text that says Zoe. All right, so it's going to come down here, blah, 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 go through all this stuff. Ultimately, make this call, this asynchronous call to Firebase. It's finally going to get a response from Firebase, and I'm printing out several things. I'm printing out last location. I'm printing out then at timestamp, and then I'm printing out the entire thing of the body that was created. And then I'm trying to send that as a text message. All right, so you've already set the text, right? Okay, and she did not get a response, but if I do Heroku Logs again, here's the body. Zoe was last seen in Stunkel at, her timestamp is in number of seconds since 1970 currently. So we are getting information from Firebase. Okay? But she is not getting this response back here. It's not sending the text back. Let me make a small change. Let's just say, well, maybe there's something wrong with body. So I'll just send the text LOL back, regardless of what else is happening, but it's still inside the closure. All right, so go back out here. Add it, commit it, push it, let it do its thing on Heroku. And by the way, for those of you who've never used Heroku before, this is pretty much the go-to entrepreneurial tool for using somebody else as your web application server. You could run your own server, but Heroku tends to be the cool kid if you're running like Node.js or Python web applications. So this is kind of how you interact with Heroku. All right, so now I've uploaded my app to Heroku, all those changes. I'll go ahead and hit Heroku Logs just to make sure it started up fine. There was no errors, things like that. All right, so it's showing me that build was succeeded, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff is good. All right, go ahead and send your text again. She's still not going to get a reply. Okay, I'll go ahead and show you in here, Heroku Log again. Here's that same stuff, hits the database, everything's successful, blah, blah, blah. We are getting to this line here. Nothing gets sent. Now, one thing we did not try, console.log. Let's just do an after, proving we got after that line, that something's not getting jammed up here, let's say. Probably should put this inside of a script, but whatever. All right, so now presuming we get past that Twilio call, which is not throwing errors, I would have expected to throw errors inside of the Heroku log. So assuming we get past it, which I think we will, we should see the string after printed in our logs. So my feeling is as far as Node and Twilio and Heroku are concerned, that message was, it was tried to be sent. They did try to send it. All right, starting up, go ahead and send your text. Service fees may...
Oh, you know, the entire semester I only owe 6 cents, so nothing.
All right, there's our after. So it's getting after that call. All right, so now, last piece here. I'll go ahead and I'll just move this line from here to after the closure. So technically, this line will get called before Firebase returns. All right, in fact, I'll go ahead and put the after here. Unless Firebase fires back real quick. I don't think it'll beat this. So we are sending this message with through Twilio while we're in the process of connecting to Firebase and getting our data back. Okay? So this is now happening outside of the closure. And now she'll get the text. But we don't have the data we really want to send her. That's why we're having to send her just an LOL or something like that. logs, make sure everything was fine. Oh, I think that's killing the previous one. Okay, yep, server starting, blah, blah, blah. Just took a couple extra seconds to start that time. Go ahead and send her text. She should get a response this time that just says, what did I ever say, LOL?
LOL.
Okay, go to logs, shows all this other stuff still happened. Notice my after appeared before my response from Firebase, as we expected, right? All right, so that's where we're stuck currently, is why can't we make a Twilio call inside of this closure?
And it doesn't work if you move the variable inside the closure as well.
No, yep. So what I did is I moved this guy. I made it not a constant. So I did this. I technically made it not a constant. Let's try making it a constant. Just can't imagine why that would make a difference. Okay. So I'll move that inside here. And then I will go ahead and we'll try to send the message there. We'll still leave our after here. Okay, so now, in case it was a scoping problem, is what you're thinking, right? Yeah, so we went ahead and we gave ourselves a nice, pretty local variable here. And we're going to use that variable immediately following it. Shouldn't have any scoping issues there. And we'll see that we get the same experience, which is a bad experience, for it doesn't reply. Give it a few seconds and I'll check the log. All right, go ahead and hit your text. Nothing. We see that our, oh, hold on. Twiml is not defined. I don't know if we saw that before. Maybe we didn't pay attention to it. So it's acting like it doesn't know about that guy, even though we're defining it, then calling it. I wonder if it has something to do with us making it a constant. Let's take the constant off of there and see if we get the same error message.
You'll probably get a different error message because I think you need at least a var in front of it.
We do need a var in front of it, thank you. And to be honest, I'm not sure we did that. I might have been thinking Python when I wrote it, but it didn't give me an error message whenever I wrote it, so. Or if it did, I didn't notice. Okay, go ahead and text.
Nothing.
Nothing. There's our logs. Here's our after. Okay, so we did still get the same Message Twiml is not defined.
It looks like it's failing at line 70 though, which is further down than where we're sitting. Yeah, it's failing. That's where it's can't find it.
Oh, because we moved it from up top. It's no longer a constant up there.
Yeah, so it's not an issue with
Right.
that's not an error related to sending.
Correct. Yeah. So actually, what we could do then we can go ahead. We'll leave this variable here. We'll give ourselves a nice, pretty local one, and then we'll still give ourselves the global one here.
You may need real thing.
Might need what?
So you were up higher before still.
Oh, I was. Thank you. No, actually, I wasn't. Anywhere in here should be good. Yeah, it might have originally been up here. But I think it was definitely inside of app post.
It just has to be outside of your if statement.
Yeah. Oh, I see. I had it inside of the Zoe thing.
Right.
Okay. Now what I want to do then is, just so there's no confusion, let's just call this guy Twiml2.
Did you want to keep that a variable or change it back to a constant?
No, let's keep it a variable. That shouldn't make a difference.
Okay.
Yeah, because the constant just says it's not going to change. We don't intend to change it, but I'm just making it called Twiml2 instead of Twiml, just so we don't have any confusion here. Plus, since this is constant is different than final, so we should be okay there. But we shouldn't have any scoping issues with this. Okay.
Nothing.
All right, so no error message. We still are getting our data from the database, so that closure is definitely getting called. We're definitely extracting the stuff we want from the database, but we're not able to make a Twilio call from within there. Any more ideas? What's the name of this function? This is Twilio message response. I wonder if you could make a synchronous call to Firebase. So make a synchronous call to Firebase, it will block, which then we can guarantee we'll have our answer before we try to send it.
Yeah, I found one thing on Stack Overflow where somebody's having a similar issue because of mixing synchronous and asynchronous code. Now, it's
slightly different than what we're dealing with here, but it may be something along the same.
Node.js, Firebase, synchronous. Sync, async, and promises. It didn't seem to show us asynchronous. Receive data synchronously in Firebase. Instead of trying to make it synchronous, you should design your model around asynchronous nature. We've done that. It doesn't work. All right, so you have this thing called a promise. You could simply implement a JavaScript promise into your file. All right, so we could it still calls another function. So I wonder if we're just wrapping another callback inside of a callback. Can you use a dot then off of any function? Like, can I go and do this? So here's my database ref. Here's the end of that guy. I can then do a dot then. And inside there, I can do my TWIML response. Go ahead and get rid of that. So the idea here is can you have a then chained after a asynchronous call to prevent this thing from happening until after that, but does it still treat it as effectively blocking before this logic? I want to say that based on what I just read there that I would need a promise to do this, which we can write that real quick. Let's start off by finding out if it even likes the syntax. Succeeded. Try to send your text.
Nothing.
All right, well, it didn't crash. Probably should have done this before, but let me just go ahead and do a console.log after in there. I took the other after out. Let's just make sure we're getting into that then after this other stuff is happening. If we are, then it tells us that the promise likely won't work either. Well, maybe not for sure, but maybe. Not yet. Okay. Do your...
Nothing.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Actually, it's strangely interesting. So this last location thing came after the after, but we had the last scene. That has to be a like an I/O delay.
Yeah, the timestamp is correct. When you look at
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, our thing here is definitely happening after then. So I don't know if a promise is going to work any better.
The only thing would be is if you could put the thing that calls the, I don't know if this would even work, but the Firebase inside a method and then have it return the body and put that whole method call inside the send message.
Oh. That's a pretty good idea. Actually, how would that even execute? Because in a loosely typed language, we're not, I have a feeling, we'll try it, but I have a feeling that because a loosely typed language doesn't require us to return a value, it's gonna, the function will finish with a return value of null, even before we get to our return inside of the callback. See what I'm saying?
Right, you should be able to do it though in such a way that you can return a value. I mean, we can do that in TypeScript. I'm not sure TypeScript I know slightly, but it's built off of JavaScript.
Yeah, let's write it. I mean, it's not going to take very much time to write it. So we'll write a JavaScript. What is it? Func, then the name of the, or is it a var? Our function is just
I
vars.
think it's function.
Oh yeah, the whole word function, I think.
Yeah.
Yep, function. So just up here somewhere, we'll write a function called hit Firebase. And then inside of there, we will take our Firebase stuff. Which is this stuff. Let's cut it from there.
I'm guessing you'll probably wanna take the body part out. The at, or does that even matter?
Oh, that should be, because hit Firebase is going to create your reference, hit the Firebase, build up this string,
Okay.
and then in the end, we're just going to return that string we built up.
Yeah, you may have to do a return in front of the Firebase part too. So it kind of ends up returning a promise and then resolves the body of the promise. At least that's how it works in TypeScript.
So you want to do another return here like that?
No, not there. Put it up above the closure. So line 35, in front of line 35. So it's going to return the value that
Oh,
returned.
you want to do a return here.
Well, actually, I was thinking the very front of the line, I think, is where you typically put it. Right there.
Well, but this is going to return, I don't think database ref once returns anything.
Maybe it doesn't. It may work slightly differently than.
I mean, because this is only going to return something if database ref once returns something.
Yes.
And database ref once doesn't return anything. Instead, it just calls this when it's complete.
Okay. Yeah, then that may.
Let's try like this first. Because my feeling is that this function's going to run to completion on its own.
Yeah, with the way it's written right now, it should.
And it's going to actually end before it gets to this line. And then we're never going to get the actual body return from it.
Yeah, with the way it's written right there, it should do that.
Because what she wants to do is...
If it's a promise, there's a way to return a value from inside of it by returning promise. But if it doesn't return a promise, then it's not going to work.
So let me get rid of this then thing. I mean, it really seems to be related to a issue with probably the way Twilio was written, making an asynchronous call inside of an asynchronous call.
That's what it seems to be.
But then how do you fix it? JS async inside of async. We can set a timeout. Might make it work.
Well, yeah, I mean, instead of long enough timeout, it should work. As long as your timeout's longer than it's going to take to process the data.
So can't we just do this then? Inside of here, we're setting a global variable that I created called message. Starts off as NA. I'm going to set it to body here. Down here is where we are saying, what's it, Twiml? Yeah, Twiml.message. Let's spell that. Twiml dot message, message. But right before that, we can say, is it just timeout?
Set timeout.
Yeah, but I don't think you have to pass it a callback. I think there's a version where you just give it time. And this really would not be very good programming practice. But at least it would tell us if it's going to work or not. Because effectively, we're making a gamble on how long is it going to take Firebase to return. And we just need to make sure we wait that long. All right, make sure you look online at the senior seminar presentations for extra credit on your final exam. They're next Tuesday and Thursday nights. All right, try to send your text.
Lemon, are you going to Acuity Fest?
Today? When's it?
Summer. I keep sending us emails about it. Is Dover taking you?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it. What is Acuity Fest?
It's their big summer